Yo, what up, y'all? It's Black Star in the building, here to talk about a new video released a few days ago by Sega. VIRTUA FIGHTER X Esports. Everybody's seen the trailer from TGS 2020 released by Sega because it's the first piece of legit news on the VIRTUA Fighter front. The VIRTUA Fighter series itself, released by Sega in like, what, 5 years? So, as you can imagine, actually even more so than anybody could imagine. It's like so many people got excited, whether it's people in the VF community, as expected, because we've been waiting so long, and surprisingly, like people in the casual community, so people in other fighting games. It was so big that it was literally trending on Twitter for a while too, like the news that on new VIRTUA Fighter news, whatever. I'm here to talk about what the trailer actually means from my perspective, because I believe I believe that people from the VF community have a unique insight compared to most others, and I think it should be shared. So I'm here to give my thoughts. So the first thing I should mention, or the main thing I should mention about the video, is the words VIRTUA FIGHTER X Esports. As you can see in the trailer, there's tournament footage. It looks like old tournament footage, of Japanese tournaments for VIRTUA Fighter exclusively. And what that footage is of, as far as I can tell, it's the Kakudo Shinseki series. If you don't know what Kakudo Shinseki is, it's basically the national tournaments that Sega ran for VIRTUA Fighter 4 mainly, and also ran in VIRTUA Fighter 5 as well. But you see the winners of, I believe it's the winners of Kakudo Shinseki 1 through 5 or 1 through 4 or something like that. You see Minami Akira, you see Itabashi Zangief, you see Shu with his famous Shun play. You see, who else was it? I think it was King, the famous Pi player. So yeah, this is actually a big deal because to those who don't know, Kakudo Shinseki is basically the precursor to CPT, Capcom Pro Tour, and Tekken World Tour Tournament. So literally like 15 years before CPT and TWT, Sega was running Kakudo Shinseki tournaments. Yeah, and what Kakudo Shinseki is basically a national tournaments run by Sega. Back then, for VF2, VF1, VF2, and VF4 in particular. VF3 less so, and VF5 less so, but definitely those three, VF1, VF2, and VF4. VIRTUA Fighter was the most popular game in Japan, like by far. I'm talking about way past Street Fighter and all that stuff. I'm talking about maybe even rivaling like Mario Brothers and stuff in as far as like being at that level of iconicness. It was just crazy how popular VIRTUA Fighter was, and these national tournaments capitalize on that. So how it works is, like, Sega had Sega arcades pretty much all over Japan. So in every prefecture or city where there were Sega arcades, Sega would run local tournaments. And some of these tournaments would be really big, as far as even having like 100-man local tournaments, as far as what I've been hearing. It's like VIRTUA Fighter was a popular game. So yeah, from basically what I researched way back in the day, from what I know, if I'm incorrect, somebody can correct me, of course. All right. But yeah, so basically how these tournaments worked was local tournaments were ran. The best players out of these tournaments were invited basically at the end of the year to the Kakudo Shinseki finals. And those representatives, those best players, would duke it out, battle it out, and the winner of that would be crowned the winner. So it's not unlike basically the Capcom Pro Tour or the Tekken World Tournament. But instead of like a world scale, it was a national scale. And the crazy thing is, they did it like 15 years before CPT and TWT, to the point where I personally believe that the format of CPT and TWT were inspired, at least in part, by the Kakudo Shinseki tournaments. But yeah, that's the thing about Sega. Sega was a super awesome company back in the day. They were pioneers. They were forward thinking. They were willing to try different things, and the entire video game industry would benefit from it. So, and these tournaments these esports tournaments were one of those forays. So yeah, so I've seen comments about like from people from like the Street Fighter world or from like the other major tournament scenes where they're actually worried. They're like, should this be what Sega is worried about right now as far as like getting into esports? Are they just trying to cash in on the fad? And my reply to those people are like, if there is any fighting game that was suited toward esports, it would be Virtua Fighter. They basically they're essentially doing esports in the fighting game scene before anybody else, pretty much. So, that's why I'm excited that is running back in Japan. Because like the word that I've seen on the internet, as far as like translated tweets and stuff like that from Sega, is that whatever this Virtua Fighter Cross Esports thing is going to be focused in Japan first. I'm like, that's great. They're basically what they're essentially saying is like they're bringing back those the focus on Japanese competition that they used to. So they're restarting that, and I imagine with this global esports reach that exists now, it's going to expand beyond those borders once they get that going. But another reason that's exciting is because Virtua Fighter has been supported officially by Sega as far as the tournament scene for so long. This is 20 years ago, but this is literally like in 2000, 2001, 2003, for VF4, for Evolution, for VF5, Vanilla, this is crazy stuff. And they did stuff before then too. So they did the Otonami Haiken tournaments, which Osakira won at least one of them. They had the Maximum Impact tournament for Virtua Fighter 3, and they had people from all over the world. So you saw people from like Taiwan and like I believe Korea as well. He had Akira Kid from Korea with his famous Akira, his fast-paced Akira. That was really cool to watch and fun to watch. And I believe you had the world famous Ryan Hart there as well. He is like the 3D master of all 3D games. He is like, one of those 3D representatives to go defend our turf from the West when Japan came. He was like that kind of guy. So, and this is, again, that was 1997. And that's not even talking about like the official tournament that they ran, national tournament they ran for like 1994 for VF4 or VF1. So Virtua Fighter Esports has been going way, way, way back, and they have a rich history of players and things like that. Like, people think that like Fudo and Itabashi Zangief are like exclusively like Street Fighter players, and I'm like, no. Fudo, before he won Evo, which is like what, 2012, 2013, he was known as Virtua Fighter God, pretty much, or one of the at least at the very least one of the geniuses of Virtua Fighter. His teacher was Virtua Fighter God himself. He has that official title from Sega when I think it was Kakuto Shinseki, the last Kakuto Shinseki tournament for Final Showdown in 2012, I believe. So that's that man Chibita, the God Leon, pretty much. Like, yeah, he taught Fudo. He when Fudo got his first nickname for wearing hoods into the arcade, looking shady or whatever, or however it was, So Fudo does not mean food; it means hood, as in hoodie. So yeah, and Itabashi Zangief, he was winning Kakuto Shinseki 4 or 5, I believe. That was like what, 2005, when he was playing Shun. He was destroying folks, man. It goes way back, It goes way back even further than that, You talk about the Iron Man, the VF Iron Man. So people like, you had people like Kiasao, legendary players like Kiasao, like Ikebukuro Sara, Boon Boon Maru, and like a few others, Shinjuku Jackie. Like, basically, you had Iron Man players like that. How you get the title of Iron Man is like you have a tournament, you have a kumite basically, where it's like one player versus 100 other players, like 99 or 100, and if you beat at least 95 of them without losing, you get the title of Iron Man. So there's like literally only a handful of people who've received that title, Tetsujin, and those are the top level players. So yeah, that just goes into like the tip of the iceberg of the history of Virtua Fighter esports, quote unquote, or whatever. Like the competitive scene goes way back. And in fact, like your favorite game probably took inspiration from Virtua Fighter, as far as like in the esports world. So stuff like Master Cup, that's based off of what's it called? Beat Tribe Cup, aka Athena Cup. The Athena Cup started in 1995. Beat Tribe Cup started in like 2000, and that had ridiculous numbers of people because of the resurgence of Virtua Fighter in Virtua Fighter 4. So it was like a ton of new people playing the game. So it was ridiculous. So they have like those 1,000-man tournaments that you would see that stuff like Cooperation Cup, stuff like Master Cup is known for. Beat Tribe was doing that like way back 2000. Athena Cup even more so in 1999. So now it's all or 1995 up till 99. All that was thanks to like people like Yamagishi-san. We love that guy, Yamagishi-san. Remember that name? he's like the heart and soul of competitive Virtua Fighter, particularly in Tokyo, but in Japan he's well loved, well respected. But yeah, you can look up his history. You can find out. You have to do some digging, but you can find it at virtuafighter.com. So you can look up a little bit of his history and a lot of Athena Cup and a lot of Beat Tribe Cup history, and then Kakuno Shinseki and Otinami Haiken. And long story short, Virtua Fighter esports goes way back, and it's just surprising how so many people just don't know. So there, anybody who's concerned about the fit of esports and Virtua Fighter, believe me, there's nothing to worry about. This is the most natural fit possible. Not only because the gameplay is the thing about Virtua Fighter is like it's the most skill based, it's the most competitive oriented. You take luck factors out, you take stuff like comeback mechanics out as much as possible, and it's all about you versus the next man. It's about that mind game. It's about person to person. So and that lends itself toward the competitive esports side the most. So it's crazy, like so again, long story short, it's a natural fit, as natural as you can get for Virtua Fighter and esports. So I'm excited to start in Japan first, and I just hope they spread it outside, because I believe they're using Japan to kickstart everything, really, as far as for the competitive scene. And once that's successful, because that'll be the easiest thing to do, because they've done it before and was very successful in it, they'll spread it across to different regions, I imagine, to the US and Europe as well, because we got VF players all over. So I'm excited to see the results. I'm assuming, this is just pure guess, I don't know anything, but I'm guessing this is going to roll out over the next couple of years or so, especially as in-person tournaments come back. So, but like everybody else, I'm waiting on news, but I'm excited. That's why I really believe the trailer is for. It's announced specifically that, not necessarily toward a new game, though. With an announcement like this, I really do believe that a new game is coming. So, but I'm not really worried about it right now. I'm more excited about VF coming back, whether it be Final Showdown being ported to PC or whatever, or being re-released. Maybe even a balance update, that would be great. Stuff like that. Or if they're bringing back the old games as well. 'Cause I believe they mentioned, I don't know if it was rumors, if they sent it. I might have to do some more research later just to confirm and stuff like that. But I don't think it's just like the newer Virtua Fighter. I think they might be focusing on older Virtua Fighter titles as well. So maybe VF2, which has its own scene still. In Japan. It is VF3, which is pretty popular in Mikado Arcade. You see videos of it all the time. They still run tournaments. I believe his name is Gorilla Kage. Um, Hopefully I didn't mess his name up, but he's run some hype tournaments. With like some VF3 team battle bets. So that could be in the mix. Hopefully maybe VF4 is back. I love VIRTUA Fighter 4. Hopefully that might see a resurgence too. So I'm excited to see. So it could be anything as far as like I'm betting those particular games, whether it's VIRTUA Fighter 5 Final Showdown, VF2, VF3, VF4, one of those versions, maybe Final Tune. I would expect. But yeah, it's exciting things. I just can't wait for the next announcement. But I think that's in mainly what the trailer is referencing to. So I don't want to drag on too long. Those are just my thoughts. If there's any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Blackstar, lowercase o on both sides. So lowercase o, Blackstar all caps, lowercase o. Hit me up on there. And if you want to play VIRTUA Fighter, hit us up on virtuafighter.com. There's a bunch of Twitter there's a bunch of Discord groups specifically for Parsec. So just come in contact with me or anybody else with VIRTUA Fighter, and we'll hook you up. We'll get you in the group and we'll get you playing because we're always looking for people. So yeah, but that's all I wanted to say. If anything else you want me to talk about, hit me up and I'll make a video on it. All right, peace.